Here's the deal. You ready? We're going to stay on the same ESPN course here. Ex-ESPNer and friend of the show, Marcellus Wiley, used to work at ESPN. Marcellus Wiley is an interesting cat. I mean, great football player, went to Columbia, worked at ESPN, worked a lot of places. His wife was on The Real Housewives of the OC, but he chimes in. Marcellus Wiley chimes in and rips Mina saying, look, if you're going to accuse Clay Travis and OutKick of anything other than, if you're going to accuse Clay Travis and me and everybody here at OutKick of horrendous lies that have led to racism, that have led to threats, Marcellus Wiley says, okay, show the receipts. Let's have a listen.
Mina over the weekend said that Clay Travis expressed some horrible lies about her. Clay Travis heard about it and said, okay, I hear you. Now what you talking about? Give me some receipts. This is just nothing but a political debate in disguise. Like they're really on opposite sides in terms of their politics. And I think that's what's really underlying all of this. I remember working and foreshadowing moments like this where I knew that there was going to be friendly fire, that I knew there was going to be a civil war amongst peers. I haven't heard direct receipts. So what's really at play is she thinks, like a lot of people think, that I'm responsible for their response. To connect someone else to the response of others is at their responsibility. Let's I see some receipts from Mina. That's not on Clay Travis, how his fan base takes his words. Just like it's not on you, how your fan base takes and twists your words. So I think that will bring clarity to this beef if we just put the responsibility where it actually lies. Not on fan base and, oh, you're stewing up. Stewing up? That ain't what I'm cooking. That's just what you smelling. So I think we need to clear that up. But the real issue for me is the fragility of the ego. It's a bit different.
That's right. Like, everything can't be horrible. Like, everything can't be awful. Like, if your ego got hurt because somebody is criticizing you, you can't all of a sudden go to, hey, guess what? We are racist. You are racist. You can't really do, you can do whatever you want. But is that really what you want to do? Is that really where it is? I don't know. And if it is, let's go. Show. Horrible lies. Okay, what are they? Clay Travis, OutKick, they write stuff. Writing stays forever. All right? Let me ask you a question. Writing stays forever, so just show where OutKick has spread horrible lies. Tell me, please, and I'll listen. Look, the idea that OutKick spread horrible lies to Mina, as Marcellus Wiley said, is simple. Just show where there is. Just tell me where you think it is, and let's go. Tell me where you think that happened. Show where it was. She was asked very nicely by Clay Travis, very nicely. Look, Mina, if somebody on our staff, if somebody here did that, then let's show me and I'll get it fixed. That's very simple. That's actually a way to do it. Here's what we're talking about. Screenshot Mina Kimes text to OutKick writer John Simmons. Hi, John. I don't have a comment for you, but I do hope you know that your horrible lies about me have led to racism and harassment towards me and my family for some time now. Don't ever text me again. Okay. Mina Kimes blocked Clay Travis. I asked Mina Kimes to please share the horrible lies she asserted OutKick had shared about her so that I could correct them. That was her response. She blocked him. Clay said he didn't know he blocked her. This is all much ado about nothing, really. This is all much ado about absolutely nothing. Zero, zip, nada. It really is. This is about if somebody did this and this was threatening and you were threatened, All right. Okay. Show the receipts. Show the receipts. And Clay has said he will clean it up. Now, look, from our standpoint, from OutKick standpoint, I think that's pretty professional. I do. I think that is very, very professional. And the way you're supposed to go about it. Hey, look, share them, I'll correct them. All right? That's simple. That's what you are supposed to do. We'll wait. We'll sit here. We'll see. Nothing yet. But who knows? Maybe there is. And if there is, Clay will correct him. Pretty simple. Every mid-major football and basketball coach feels this way. Everyone. Every single one. Everyone. This is Coach Chuck Martin of Miami of Ohio, who lost his kicker to Alabama. All right. Chuck Martin, in losing his kicker to Alabama, is not happy. Here's what Chuck Martin, the coach of Miami, Ohio, and I swear to God, this is every mid-major coach. I was like this. Everyone was like this. Every mid-major coach feels this way. Let's listen to Chuck Martin, the coach at Alabama.
All right, special teams, lost your kicker. Carter McLaughlin.
We didn't lose him. He's at Alabama. We know
Yeah,
exactly.
I understand
We know exactly
that.
where he's at. Like you media people, it's all pretend. Like, no, Alabama stole our kicker.
Yes,
they
did.
illegally recruited
I didn't want to say it,
They
Coach.
illegally recruited our kicker and stole him from us. And like that's a fact. But that's but we act like it's not. We live in this la la world. Like, hey, let's not talk. I don't know why
Here we
everybody knows
go.
what's going on. So, yeah, Alabama stole our kicker. A couple
Got a good one right now.
other schools tried to steal it, but then okay. What's the
Let's
question?
talk about.
See, I love it. See, and this is, you can tell that Martin's really irritated about this. And you can tell that he's been talking about this kind of thing because the guy who's doing it, and I think he's doing it for the Red Hawk Network, he, ladies and gentlemen, he's been saying this and saying this and saying this, Martin has, and no one's been paying attention. And you could tell by the way that you media people, they didn't lose. And the guy says, well, here we go. Now, you can tell that Martin is really agitated by this. You can tell that he's really pissed off. And so is every mid-major guy. I swear to God, every mid-major guy is hostile. Every mid-major guy is like, hold on here. Hold the phone. I'm tired of bigger schools coming in. I'm tired of them paying players to get the hell away from me and go to them. Now, Alabama had a response. Kalen DeBoer said, yeah, we didn't steal anyone. The guy went in the portal. We did everything right. Now he's at Alabama. I don't want to talk about it. I don't know, and here's the problem. Back in the day, if somebody would have said, hey, look, kicker went from Miami of Ohio to Alabama and got money, people would be like, well, that's illegal. You stole him. Okay? Well, that's not the way it works now. The way it works now is agents of kids actively solicit their client to go to a bigger school for more money. That's the way. So I don't even know. And again, I appreciate what Coach Martin is saying here, but I don't even know what stealing a kicker would be in this day and age. I wish I did. I wish he was right. You know, I wish that this was better for him because here's the deal. At the mid-major level, you get a guy, you get him going, you fight through, you get him to be really good, and next thing you know, boom. Boom. He's gone. He's at Alabama. Ah, crap. You know what I mean? And that's not good. That's bad. So, long story short, this coach, while he's right, it's just a different era. And that era sucks for mid-majors. It does. It sucks. Look, in 2007, I had a player named Ron Lewis. Ron Lewis was going to be the all-time leading scorer at Bowling Green. And on August 9th, I get a call from Ron, hey, I'm transferring. What are you talking about? You're here all summer. Yeah, I know, but I'm transferring. Ends up at Ohio State. Ends up the leading scorer in the 2007 NCAA tournament. Ohio State lost in the final to Florida. No, it's unbelievable. I don't know. Thad Matta said, hey, I didn't do nothing. The kid said he wanted to come. My coaches said he was good. I watched film. We took him. Different world. Like I could say then, and I really didn't, I could say, well, Ohio State stole my kick or my player. because back then the rules were different. But now I just don't know. I don't, and I'm going to ask Dan Mullen about it. I am. I'm going to ask Dan Mullen about what is the deal here. Paul Finebaum is back saying more crazy shit. Or does he have a point? Finebaum is now claiming that the Alabama dynasty is over and takes a direct shot at Caleb DeBoer's coaching abilities. I'm going to ask Dan Mullen about this too. We've seen Georgia win twice, Michigan win once since Alabama last won a national championship. So, yes, I would declare the dynasty done. It was done before Saban left. It's really done now that DeBoer is there. I'll give Finebaum credit, man. He's in the news. That dude is in the news. Big time. All the time. And frankly, by being in the news, my man here is getting everybody to talk about him, but I don't think he's right. Look, you're not going to win every year. Is the dynasty over? Don't know. Let's see what happens in year one of DeBoer. Let's see what happens without Nick Saban, shouldn't we? I mean, we can all say it's over. The greatest coach in the history of Alabama is gone. It's over. All right. But we don't know. Still Alabama. And here's the deal. Here's the deal with coaching. You saw this with Mike Davis at Indiana. You've seen it with a few others. The only reason I know this with Mike Davis is because I'm close to the program. I love Mike. I think Mike did a great job at Indiana, and he'll be the first to tell you that when he took over, man, everything was in place with Jared Jeffries and Mike Newton, Jeffrey Newton, and Dane Fife and Kyle Hornsby and Tommy Coverdale all having the Bob Knight discipline. So what happens early is the discipline of the previous program becomes your discipline, and that's good. And a lot of times your first year or two is great. So let's give DeBoer a minute. Can we give DeBoer a minute, please? Just a minute to go, hey, let's see how he does. Let's see how he recruits. He's got a terrific quarterback. He's got a terrific infrastructure. The guy's won everywhere he's been. This next story catches my interest for a lot of reasons. You know I like Deion Sanders, right? I'm not ready to throw dirt on Deion Sanders like a lot of people are. A lot of people thought Deion Sanders overrated, blah, 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 blah. I like Deion Sanders, and we've said this on this show because he's interesting. I like that he stands up against reporters. I've defended Deion Sanders. All right. But this is fascinating to me, and I think this is kind of smart in a way, in a weird way. Listen to this. A former Colorado football coach spent time in the Middle East this past holiday season lobbying Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, the PIF, for name, image, and likeness funding on behalf of Colorado football. Now remember, this is the fund that is paying for Live Golf. This is the fund that has, oh man, so much money. More money than you can imagine. Well, guess what? I think it's pretty smart. I don't know. I mean, I know you guys are going to say, well, they're murdering people and all that, and you're probably right. But if you're looking for big money, go to big places. Like, I don't think these banks that give money to whomever are exactly the most honest, forthright, moral institutions. And I don't know enough to know what this fund would have to do with murdering people. I think we just see Saudi and we think this is what they do. Okay. But in the world of college football, you're going anywhere. I mean, you certainly would take, if a guy was a billionaire in prison, you'd take his money, no matter what the guy did. I don't know, man. Deion Sanders tried to create a partnership ahead of his first season, apparently, back in the Big 12. This, to me, is forward thinking. You can disagree. When this gets interesting is how it will be received by the masses. To Riley's point, there's nothing illegal, ill-advised, or even frowned on. When it comes to NIL, listen to this. The money has to come from somewhere. In this particular case, it just happens to not come from someone inside of Colorado. Would it be better if CU alums, boosters, or other Colorado interests were the ones funding the NIL deal? Of course. The only question is, how will this land for the individual fan? If funding NIL deals can only come from the university, sponsors, boosters, and alumni. It will never actually be fair. Well, of course it's not fair. It wasn't fair before NIL. Similar to other unbalanced dynamics in college football, the big dogs will continue to win hand over fist, while the other 70% of college football will have to make do with table scraps, good, bad, or otherwise. NIL funding through the PIF would completely change the dynamic with the snap of the fingers. Don't forget, if Colorado were to secure funding from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it would be an unprecedented move for college athletics. Yes, I'm telling you. You guys may think differently. You guys may think, all right, you know what? This is bad. This is awful. Okay, well, guess what? I don't know. Pretty smart. I think it's pretty smart. You know what I mean? I think it's really smart. I think that he is looking outside the box. I think that he is looking at something going, wait a second here. Where can we get the most funding? You know what I mean? That's what you're trying to – look, you go to Mark Cuban if you're Indiana. You know, you go to Mark Cuban and you say, hey, look, here's the deal. We want you because you have the most money. Mark Wagner, who's Cuban's partner, you have the most money. This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant, I think. I think when you look at something, you say, look, I don't want to nickel and dime this. I want a grand gesture. And the PIF has more money than God. And that grand gesture would put, I believe, now again, I don't know. I'm going by what they did for Live, the money they're throwing out, the money they supposedly have, that kind of thing. I'm going with good for Deion Sanders, man. Now that is thinking outside the box. Hey, Nick, you think that people would bitch, whine, and moan for long? Reason I'm going to say this for long. People are going to bitch, whine, and moan. But you think they would bitch, whine, and moan to the point where it made a difference if Deion Sanders used the Saudis to fund his football program?
I think so, because they bitch, whined, and moaned when they gave the money to the Live Golf League. So no matter what, if somebody's getting money from the Saudis, they're gonna get pissed. And the thing is it's a shit ton of money, like an absolute boatload of money. People are gonna get jealous too. I would say they're gonna more so rage out of jealousy because they can't get the money, unlike Deion. I think it's a really smart move.
I do too. I think it's brilliant. I do. And I'm not saying it's the only place that you should go. Of course not. But it's a swing. Like, I don't know all the great financial institutions. I just watched a show on Bernie Madoff, who might be the worst dude ever. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to go, you go big. I guarantee you people would have hit up Madoff back in the day before he did what he did and got exposed for his incredibly ridiculous Ponzi scheme that, for whatever the reason, I'm pontificating here, that the SEC regulators decided they weren't going to check out. But the truth of the matter is, I ain't mad at Deion Sanders for doing this. Now, people can say, it's egregious, it's it. Okay, whatever you want to say. But the fact of the matter is, hey, Nick, if I'm going to go big. And when you're talking about paying, I don't know, $4 or $5 million a year, maybe somebody said there's a yearly budget at one school of like $20 million. That ain't nothing to these people, apparently. I don't have to scratch and claw. When I was at Bowling Green, I had to do 5 fundraisers throughout the year to fund our summer school program. You don't have to do nothing once you get the PIF involved. And, hey, look, I won't be surprised because Sanders is smart. Deion Sanders is smarter than most people. He really is. And in this instance, I think he's smarter than everybody. I do.
I think so too.
Speaking of men that don't have low testosterone, it's Nick and Dan. Dana Bush, CNN reporter, says the primary message of the Democratic National Convention for Men is it's okay to have low testosterone. Really? All right, let's hear.
Put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male.
Yeah, all because what? You think Republicans don't support a woman? All you got to do is look at the president and the vice president. Yeah, I know the president back in the 80s did some things, but who hasn't? You know what I'm saying? Like, who the hell hasn't? So the bottom line is really simple, man. I don't know. I guess you're trying to get a different kind of group, but we already knew that. Like, everybody knew that. Anyway, it's interesting. It is. It's very, very interesting that that's what's come up. All right. Heads up, world. In addition to all the fantastic places you can watch Don't At Me, like the OutKick page, YouTube X, and all your favorite social platforms, you can now catch us on Fox Nation. If you or loved ones own Fox Nation, be sure to stream us every weekday, Monday through Friday. And remember, America is streaming. The great Dan Mullen hit the scene a year or so ago on ESPN. It's fantastic. But I got to get into your past real quick. I was looking at things, and I did not realize, like, if you watch TV, NFL TV, Dak Prescott isn't very good. Like, and I'm like, wait a second. I looked up Dak Prescott the other day. 4,500 yards, a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception rate, 70% of his passes, Dan. I'm like, wait a second here. I didn't know Dak Prescott was that good because I'm a Colts fan. I pay attention a little bit to the Cowboys. But damn, that dude is really good. Why is everybody on that man's ass all the time? You coached him.
Well, you know what? He has the hardest job in sports, right? Not the hard, but one of. Being the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And the great thing, you know what? He handles that pressure so well. I remember back coaching him in college. And, we were back in 2014. We're the number one team in the country at Mississippi State. He's got all of this hype around him, everything going on, and, Heisman Trophy interviews. And I said, well, Dak, he's like, it's so much. There's like, I got so much on my plate. I said, well, I have the simplest solution for you. You go out this week and you go throw 3 interceptions, and you're not going to have to do any more interviews. Everybody will leave you alone. And I think he laughed it off. And I think from that point, he understood, hey, if you want to be the quarterback of a high-profile place, and at Mississippi State, maybe it's not the highest profile place, but when you're Mississippi State number 1 in the country, you certainly are in the most high-profile place. There becomes all of the extra pressure, all of the extra things, and you just have to go embrace it. And I think he learned that early on. And, one of the things that you as a coach will appreciate that makes him special. And I understand where people say, hey, there's going to be guys that have more arm talent than he has. There's going to be guys that are more athletic than he is running around. But you're going to be hard-pressed to find a guy that has more it factor, leadership, personal drive than he does. And if you've watched him throughout his career, he's gotten better every single year. Well, that's because he has a personal drive to greatness. He makes everyone around him better, and he's just got that it factor of what you want your players to have. I don't care what sport it is or what you're doing in life. He has that factor about him.
Yeah, I was actually going to add to that, like you never hear him in any situations. He just, God dang, I became over the last 2 weeks when I just did a little research on it, a massive Dak Prescott fan. I always liked him, but I never, if you watch TV, Mike McCarthy's getting fired every day, and Dak Prescott's going to they're going to sign somebody. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I got to ask you about another guy, Anthony Richardson here in Indy. Everybody, hey, he's this, he's that, he's whatever. I believe you recruited Anthony. What's he about?
Well, Anthony, I recruited him. I coached him for 2 years. And boy, he is a phenomenal talent. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks I've seen. I mean, the ball just comes firing out his hands. He's got a great release, nothing funky. You watch the ball jump out of his hands. He is a freaky athlete. I mean, freaky athlete. And he's got size. He's got everything. I think the biggest thing for Anthony, he's still really young. I mean, he's very young. He was young playing for me in college. He was, he's still one of the younger quarterbacks in the NFL. And, because you're looking at a lot of these guys getting drafted and coming out in college football, and they're in their 6th year in college. Heck, there's guys right now, most of the guys in college were in his recruiting class or recruited before him. But I guess the biggest one for him is staying healthy. Heck, if he could have stayed healthy at Florida, I might still be coaching. I mean, every time we tried to get him in games, he got banged up. He got in different injuries. And part of it is, as he continues to grow and mature, is taking care of his body. I mean, he's a Ferrari. And not that I've driven many Ferraris in my life or know a lot about Ferraris, but one thing I do know, boy, they are high-end luxury cars that you better put super expensive gas. You got to take great care of them. They break easy, but when they run, they are something special. And I think as he continues to grow and as he continues just the maturity of learning how to manage and take care of his body and keep himself healthy, because when he does, he's special.
You're one of the great quarterback coaches, offensive coordinators, and head coaches in the history of college football. So I'll ask you more than anybody else. People say, well, he's inaccurate. Okay. And some say you can't teach accuracy. Where are you at with being able to teach accuracy as you get older as a quarterback?
I think that's one of the things you can teach. It's hard to teach arm talent, but right. You can teach accuracy. Accuracy is a lot about release point. It's a lot about balance. You can teach accuracy with footwork, right? So I think there comes a lot to that. The other part about accuracy is anticipation and understanding, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys. I bet if you take an Anthony Richardson, you take most quarterbacks, and you go throw routes on air. You know what I mean by routes on air, and people out there is, the receiver is going to go run a 7-step glance or speed post, or the receiver is going to run a corner route 12 to 25 yards down the field. Okay. Or he's just even going to run a go route down the sideline. You're going to take a snap. There's no defense, and you're just throwing the ball to the receiver. Well, Anthony's going to be extremely accurate. Most like great quarterbacks, anybody in the NFL, that to get to that level, they're going to hit those 10 out of 10 times. Well, the part of the game then that becomes that you see younger players learn, and as they advance and move on in their careers, is they're trying to take a snap. They're trying to read the defense, understand the play, watch how the receiver's running the ball. And they all have to do that in about 1.6 seconds before some 300-pound guy hits them square in the face. And the thing that you go watch older and veteran quarterbacks, and you go watch and say, well, you have a Peyton Manning so accurate. Well, at the end of his career, they said he couldn't throw the ball 35 yards maybe at the most, but he's so accurate. Well, he's so accurate because he already knows everything that's going to happen before he makes that throw. And Tom Brady, you get, these guys as they got older in their career, and you look at their accuracy. Not only do they have the talent, but they already know what all 22 guys on the field, or all other 21 besides them, are doing for the ball snap. So their decision-making, they already know exactly where they're throwing the ball. And essentially, they're back to throwing routes on air. There's no defense, no pressure, no worries, no concerns. They're just throwing the football. And I think that is where younger quarterbacks, you see them struggling early in their career, the decision-making and getting the ball out of their hands on time.
Tom Brady said that we're dumbing down football. He called it a tragedy that young quarterbacks have to play so early. We just talked about one here, Anthony Richardson. What's your take on the dumbing down of football? Do you feel that way? And is it a tragedy that young players, young quarterbacks have to step right in?
Yeah, I do. I think we are in a lot of different ways, and I think that's what's hurting a lot of these younger guys. And now it's starting to trickle down to the college. You look. Okay, you take a Dak Prescott, for example, who was on the bench for 2 years and then a 3-year starter for me at Mississippi State. Well, he gets to learn about coverage. He gets to learn about checking protections. He gets to learn about these things. Now in college football, especially, you look at the transfer portal. You have guys that, hey, I'm going to a program for 1 year. Well, the coach now, hey, I might have this guy for 1 year. I got to keep it as simple as possible. I can talk to him in his ear, coach him now out on the field. Let's keep it as simple as possible because I don't have the 4 years to develop him because he's going to transfer, he's going to leave, or he transferred in and I only have him for one season. I think you're getting into the NFL right now, and people are saying, okay, well, we have a window to win with rookie quarterbacks because he's on a rookie contract. So we have this window to win. We can spend money elsewhere. Let's force him onto the field. And because he's not maybe ready or developed to that point, we got to dumb down the offense for him to make it as simple as we can for those quarterbacks. So I do think, and I think it's something that's really coming and stemming from the different levels you're getting at. NFL coaches are getting these kids out of college saying, hey, what'd you do? Well, I ran a no-huddle offense. The coach told me what to do in my ear, and I never really spent the time to learn the game inside and out because I played at 3 different schools. And, and they're like, okay, well, we have a short window to get you ready, so let's keep it really simple for this guy. And I think that's a tougher deal now for a lot of, you're seeing it, football trickles down from the NFL. It also trickles up to the NFL. And they're having to adjust to what they're getting with college kids.
Dan, I'm looking at your, excuse me, I'm looking at your top 4 in college football: Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, and Texas. 2 of those teams, Texas and Georgia, have returning veteran quarterbacks. The others have veterans, but that have transferred in. Ohio State with a kid, I think, and Oregon with a kid. How, in your mind, as a coach in college, what kind of advantage does a Georgia or a Texas have by having a guy, or is there no advantage based on what you just said to having a veteran quarterback?
I think there's a huge advantage. I think they know the receivers, they know the leadership, they know the routine, they know the offense inside and out. They're coaches on the field. Now, when you look at the case of Ohio State with Will Howard, veteran guys, played a lot of football, around 2 great quarterback coaches in Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. That there's that chance. When you get out to Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, I mean, we're talking before about Anthony Richardson. I think he was in the recruiting class before Anthony Richardson, I mean, he's been around college football that long. So a guy with that type of experience he's played in the big games. He knows. But you know what? He's learning the routine at Oregon. He's learning the offense in the system. He's learning the receivers. So there is that curve of how long it's going to take. The same with Will Howard. How long is it going to take for them to catch up to the curve and to also think like the coach? Right? I think it's really important. When you're out there with the quarterback, he might know your offense and know your system, but if he does not on the same page with you with play calling, with how you're thinking, how you want the game managed, you see quarterbacks. I always play guys, and they look to the sideline with a blank stare. You're in a good position. That quarterback that halfway through you're signaling the play, he's already turned. He already knew, hey, 3rd down and 4. I already know what my coach is going to call in this. So, and hey, we were on the same page with this because we've been together for years. I think there's a big advantage of having that almost, that coach on the field at the quarterback where, you have melded together and your minds have melded together exactly how you've set plays up. You know what I mean? How you've kind of, it's not about the one play. If you're calling a play and the quarterback is running the play you called, that's great. And then he's turning to get the next one. You want the quarterback that he knows, hey, I'm running this great. Coach is setting us up. We're setting it up. You see the guys come off the sidelines of the coach, and they're like, hey, we know we've set them up for this down the road now. The guy that's in the game plan and in the coach's head in the strategy part of the game as it moves on. Those are the quarterbacks you want on the field, and that's what a returning starter gives you the advantage because he's thinking that way.
I got to ask you, you've called games and national, national championship games, SEC. You ever get nervous? You ever fumble around and, the quarterback's like, hey, coach, this is what we should call. Like, do you ever screw up when you're calling in a big moment in a big game?
Listen, coaches screw up all the time. You know what I mean? And you do. You're like, that wasn't very good. I mean, you make a call and you make a mistake. And, I think all the fans out there think we're perfect all the time. But you're coming up and you're like, you know what? You're watching the film. I missed this. I should have called this here. You're evaluating yourself, getting better. I always wonder that. Everybody in every job, the scary one in life is that surgical doctor that gets home, right? I mean, I've come home to Megan before after the game, be like, you know what? I should have called this on 3rd and 4. That wasn't a great call. We missed this. I did this wrong. Does that doctor go home after surgery, and he's fixing himself a cocktail, maybe a nice glass of wine at night. He's like, boy, I screwed this one up today. I should have sewn that up or snipped different because, right? I mean, listen, in sales, boy, we should have gotten another couple dollars out of that. We should have made this deal this way. We should have done it yesterday. Whatever the job is, right? Everyone's always making mistakes trying to get better. Then I always thought about that. I'm like, there's a surgeon out there that went home. He's like, boy, honey, I had a bad day today. I really should have done, I should have, snipped instead of sewn. But it didn't go well. I mean, that's a scary thought out there sometimes. You hope those guys are, if someone needs to be perfect, you hope it's those guys.
You got stuffed on 3rd down. The surgeon lost Mrs. McGillicuddy on the table. There's a big difference.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
I guess you shouldn't laugh at it. It's not really funny, but I mean, it's true.
But it's true. It's really true.
You're going home after the show today. Said I could have done this better in the show. You could have called this better. I should have said this. And there's a doctor out there who had a bad day. Maybe that's a scary deal.
No, you're right. You're absolutely. Yeah, you never have a bad day in the booth. I mean, maybe you should have said, but you ain't losing and you ain't going home. Hey, I want to ask you something that I found fascinating. Deion Sanders. Everybody's trying to get NIL money. I don't know if you saw this, but Deion Sanders sent one of his coaches to Saudi Arabia to dig into that live tour money from that fund that they have in Saudi Arabia. So he took a big old swing. Like, he didn't mess around with, Joey Bag of Donuts, the booster who owns car dealerships. He went out to the Saudis, sent a coach to the Middle East. I thought that was pretty smart, Dan. I don't know. Swing big, no?
Well, hey, you think about this, right? I mean, you think of these guys you look at the NIL budgets or what colleges bring in. And I've said this a long time ago. I was looking at people. I said, like, you own an NFL team. Well, that's going to cost you over $1 billion, right? I'm guessing, for $100 million donation to a university, you can probably have pretty much ownership control over that. Like, you and I both know you've coached at the highest of levels. You said there, but Booster writes you a check for $100 million. He's going to have a lot of say on what goes on in what's going on within the program. And now with NIL, heck, he might be able to control the whole roster. Hey, we'll build you. You put $100 million in, you can have an office in the building, and you can have a lot of say on what's going on here. So it's really not a bad thought if you want control in college sports, that you can go do that. Listen, when Phil Knight goes to an Oregon game or speaks up at Oregon, I'm sure he has some juice. I mean, T. Boone Pickens used to have a lot of say in what was going on at Oklahoma State. So why not go get one of those guys? Hey, you want to have a college football team? It's exciting. It's got a lot going on. Make a little donation and we'll see what you can do.
My dog's barking, which means somebody's probably coming in to rob us. I don't know. Hey, Lula, shut up. That's this show right here, right? Dogs are barking. I'm yelling at the dog. That's the kind of action. Hey, last thing before I let you go. Why Ohio State is your number one team?
I just think the talent they have. I think they are top to bottom. They have a lot of and everyone gets there with the quarterback. Listen, they have a lot coming back on defense, to a defense that was very, very, very good. Okay. Listen, offense sells tickets. Offense puts butts in the seats. Offense is what's exciting and gets you to watch on TV. But in the end, defense still wins championships. They have a lot coming back on defense, and they might have a new quarterback, but he is surrounded by skill all over the field. He has skill everywhere. And you throw in that Ryan Day now has a security blanket, if you will, with Chip Kelly coming back. And, you know, there's a certain deal with coaches of, especially Ryan Day, who's an offensive guy, who's a play caller, right? I was really comfortable when I had Brian Johnson as my offensive coordinator. Kind of, we always thought a lot alike, you know. Or when I was with Urban, I think Urban was pretty confident when I was his offensive coordinator, you know. And when you have that guy that you're kind of think the same way. And Ryan and Chip came up together. You know, Ryan worked with Chip, and now it goes the opposite way. I think there's a big comfort level there. I think that gives them the slight edge over Georgia. You know, I don't know that we're going to have an undefeated team this year. You know, I think there'll be some teams slip up, but in the long run, I think the defense and the playmakers at Ohio State will make them number one, and I think really would push them over the edge at the end of the year.
Last thing. What did you think of what went down at Michigan? Speaking of Ohio State, what did you think about what went down with Harbaugh? And now there's another one still coming, this Stallions thing. As a former coach, what did you think about all that?
Listen, every coach is trying to get their edge, right? They took it too far, but heck, you know, I mean, everyone in coaching has always been trying to get their edge. And you know, I mean, he had a guy on his staff that was trying to make a name for himself and get an edge, and he went and did that. I was always somebody, I think, tried to follow all the rules the right way, and people shake their head at me. Well, what, you know, why didn't you do more? Why didn't you try to like cheat in recruiting or do this or do that? I mean, it's all out there. It just seems to me now the NCAA today is a lot of times throwing up their hands on that stuff. And I guess, you know, they were looking and saying, hey, we're going to come down on one. We got a way to go after a coach, right? Without recruiting. Right now, like they look at recruiting like, oh, well, this guy illegally was paying players. They should have been paid anyway. Not a big deal. Who cares? They found a way to come down on a coach. They did. Jim looked at it and said, hey, I'm out. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm going to the NFL. We won a championship. It helped us win a championship, and all the fans are really happy. And, you know, I think fan bases look back at that stuff and say, boy, I guess, you know, maybe we bent the rules some, but it got us a championship, so it's okay.
Yeah. I think that's exactly how fans look at it, right? I think that's exact. I know that's exactly. Yeah, you know that's fans, exactly how fans look.
The fans at Ohio State are really, man. Michigan fans, they're kind of like, we really, I guess, shouldn't have done it. But did you see our championship ring? You know, like.
That's right. Hey, if he lost, if it didn't go their way, then he's horrible. Get rid. Hell, they were.
He's got to go. He's like, he's a cheater. He's the worst.
Yeah. Right. Hey, I appreciate you. What's your first game? Missouri? Is that what I saw?
Yes, we're heading out. Matt Berry and I and Harry Lyles will be heading out to Columbia, Missouri next Thursday night for that game, and then you always see all three of us doing all the Thursday night games throughout the year on ESPN. And then I'll be hanging with my boy, with Matt and Joey Galloway Friday and Saturday in studio all day long, watching and talking some ball.
They got you working. You're the Charles Barkley of football, working every day. I like it.
I'm a working man. You know that. I'm a working man.
Yeah.
Hey. They do give that nice time for me to spend all this family time in the offseason. All this family time. It's been on I think my wife's ready for me to go back to work a little bit.
I always tell people I didn't get divorced till I got out of coaching, and I was home all the damn time doing TV. I mean, hey, tell Megan hello. Good luck to your son. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you, Coach. Thank you.
Great to be with you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.